everybody, welcome to the channel, and glad you made it back. I have a lot of people very interested in this swap that we're doing, and today I'm going to take you right to one of your easiest upgrades that you can do when you're going to be taking a 5.9 Cummins and putting it in your Ford F350 this is a 2008 Ford F350 that had a 6.4 liter V8, a diesel in it. Now, what I want to do today is explain how we're going to try to get a consistent fuel pressure and a consistent gallons per hour delivery system for a truck that I'm trying to build for my specifications. Now, let me explain one of the things that a lot of people come to these channels to try to develop, and especially some of the young bucks like to get out there and try to deliver themselves an 800, 1200 horsepower engine. If you're trying to get up past 500 horses, don't even do what I'm doing, because what the upgrade that I'm going to be doing today is going to do is going to be able to deliver confident, competent fuel supply to a 5.9 12 valve up to 550 horsepower. If you started going over 500 horsepower, you're probably going to want to get the air dog or the fast system to deliver 60 pounds pressure, get this mechanical one out of the system and run it that way, even if you're on a 12 valve. So what I'm trying to do is I'm building a truck that's going to pull my 45-foot fifth wheel down to South Texas and back. It's an all-day drive down and all-day drive back. That's all I really need it for. I'm not going to be doing any great powerful modifications on this truck. You'll see most of the modifications that I'm going to be doing to try to bring it up to 400 to 450 horsepower is where my goal is, are going to be moderate modifications that are not going to stress this engine and be able to go for a long time with the great design of this Cummins 5.9 12 valve engine. Now, most of you guys already know, if you're looking at this thing to make a swap, you got to make a decision whether you're going to go with a mechanically operated engine or an electronically operated engine. The engine that I chose to go with was a mechanically operated one, so it's not dependent on a whole lot of electronics. You turn this thing loose and it's going to run for you. You have to have a solenoid to shut it down because it's going to run. It's a good diesel engine. It's an old school diesel engine that's easy to work with. So if you're wanting to get way up there in the horsepower, you probably want to go with a 24 valve, get you a fast system to deliver fuel and get it up there, 800 to 1200 horsepower. You can do that. All you need to do is a lot of modifications and a lot of electronic control. I don't want electronic control. I want this thing just to be bare bones bully. I want it to be tough. So let's get on with our modification today. Let's show you that lift pump that hooks onto the side of this engine and show you what we're going to do to it to bring it up to the level that we need for our 450 horsepower. Okay, so folks, one of the things that you're going to have to remember here is that anytime you're dealing with fuel distribution in your truck, all the clearances inside your pumps and inside your injectors and everything sometimes are down to the millionths of an inch. And so you want to make sure to keep everything clean around here. And so just before you start to tear this bad boy apart, get you some cleaning fluid, clean it off real good, make sure it doesn't have any junk on it. So now we've got it all clean. We're going to show you the parts that we need to look at on the pump so that you'll know which parts to pull out. Already got this loose, so we're going to pull out the intake side of this and this is where your delivery, where your modification is actually going to take place, is inside here. Okay, so let's take that out. Now be careful when you open it up because there's a spring right inside. All right, there it is. There's the spring. Now that's what we're going to modify right there. Let's show you the entire setup before we show you what we're going to do with this spring. All right, let's go with our pick. Now inside here, this is a 30 mil plunger. Let me pull this 30 mil plunger out here so you can see it. All right, there it is. It hit the ground, so I'm going to hit it real quick. Make sure everything's off of it. All right, let's measure it just to make sure what we're dealing with is a 30 mil here. So we got out our caliper. You turn it on. You can read that. All right, let's see what we got. Shows 29.85, so we're at a 30, and that's what we want. You want to get a 30 because there's 26ers out there. 26ers will not be able to deliver the volume of fuel that you want. You want the 30 mil plunger. So your plunger in here, it's very old school. One side it has the holes that actually is the suction side of it, and here's the pressure side of it. When this is in here and your spring is loaded in here, what actually is pressurizing the fuel coming out is this spring. And for you to be able to increase the pressure on that spring will thereby give you an increased pressure and volume whenever your engine is running. It's very simple what we're going to do. This is the Cummins upgrade spring. You can look there and see that number that's on there, 973-1. I got this from Jegs. They're very easy to find, and they're very cheap, which is my middle name. And we're going to go ahead and put this in here. I'm going to lubricate it slightly so we have no problems. Now this should fit, I mean, really tight clearance going down in there. Just wiggle it a little bit and it'll finally clear. And there it goes. It's on its way down. Then we're going to put the spring down in there and put the end back on. Now this thing won't compress that, so you actually will have to push it together to get that to thread, and I'll do that off camera right now. But you push that down there to get that thread, and then you've got your upgrade done. Okay, so one of the things that is a difference between an industrial engine and a truck engine. Mine is an industrial engine, although it did come out of an F700. It was a street sweeper up in Canada. This little spacer right here goes up here, gasket, spacer, gasket. That is the same spacer that you would need if you were using a truck, a lift pump, and the spacer here is going to be a part of your fuel heater. There's a fuel heater that goes in front of the fuel filter, and if I were you, I would just cut that heater off of it, run your because it's not connected other than the hoses, the fuel lines. Just cut it off and use that spacer. Now the reason why you have to have that spacer on there is because the length that this sits on the cam, because this sits onto the cam, If you don't have that spacer in there, it doesn't give it enough clearance, and you're either going to break out that plunger in there, or you're going to get a wear on your cam, and your cam's going to be ruined. At least you're going to have to, at that point, pull it off, pull this off, put a delete on it, and go full lift pump with FASS or a air dog. So make sure when you get this back on that you've got a spacer in there. That spacer is necessary for the clearance of the plunger in here. Okay, so one of the things you've got to do every once in a while is just clean up. Just want to mention this. You're dealing with a lot of clearances here that are very tight, fuel and other things, some worse than others. But the one thing that you want to make sure doesn't happen is you get filings from your drilling and stuff into the engine. Let me show you how we clean it up right after we get through drilling and tapping our exhaust manifolds. All right, well, here's the engine here, and you'll notice after I got through with the exhaust manifolds, tapping those, I've got a lot of filings down here I've got to get rid of. First thing you want to do is you want to try to sweep those out, get them away from your engine, and you'll see all the way around this thing I've got it's kind of dirty, and I've got to get all this nastiness out of here, because next thing we're going to do is we're going to paint this thing, and I've got to get all this nasty stuff out of here so we can paint it. Haven't quite pulled this one off yet. There's more grease behind there, but let's clear off the filings and everything right now. Now here's another little minor maintenance thing that you're going to have to do here when you're getting ready, is you've got to make sure that there's an good electrical contact that is back here on the back side of your engine and your adapter plate. Okay? That has to be a good ground, because this is the ground that goes over to your transmission, and your transmission, in order for it to operate correctly, has got to have a good ground coming across, and that's what you have to do here. So what we have is, I've gone over this one with a little heftier grit, but I've got some 400 here, and we'll just work on this, and we'll get this down here, get this all shined up, and get this where it's just purely bare metal. So when you put this on there, then it's going to make a good electrical contact. But if you've got rust and debris on this, you may not get a good electrical contact. So make sure it's very clean, and just get some 400 grit, and get on there, just some real fine grit, and get on there and give it a whack. I'll take a look at it here when I get done. Okay, we've given her a good sand down. You'll see there's a couple of little blemishes on here, but all the milling marks you can see now. You can see a little bit of reflection on there. You've gotten all the debris off of there, so it'll make good contact. All right, let's take a look at the back side of the engine. All right, let's take a look at that. It's got a little bit of pitting still in there, but you should be able to see that we're down to metal on there. On this main contact, yeah, you see that reflection off of there, real easy. Got a little bit more to do down here. Get a small piece of sandpaper to do that, but you can see that it's pretty well done right there. Again, the reason why you do that is to make sure that you have a good electrical connection to grounding across from your main engine, where the ground is, into your transmission. When you hand this over to your tune master, he will not have to be
figuring out if you wired it correctly. This is your first and basic wiring piece, is to make sure that this ground happens.